Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving into one of the most transformative events in history, the French Revolution. It wasn't just a French affair. It was a seismic shockwave that ripped through the very fabric of European civilization, and its aftershocks are still felt today. To understand its impact, we have to travel back to the late 18th century. Europe was a patchwork of kingdoms ruled by absolute monarchs and a powerful aristocracy. Society was rigidly structured with privileges for the few and burdens for the many. The idea that a common person had rights or could have a say in how they were governed was, for most, unthinkable. France, under King Louis XVI, was the glittering epicenter of this old world, the Ancien Regime. But beneath the gilded surface of Versailles, discontent was boiling. Years of financial mismanagement, costly wars, and a series of bad harvests had pushed the kingdom to the brink of bankruptcy. The common people, the Third Estate, were starving and crushed by taxes, while the clergy and nobility paid virtually none. The cry for liberty, equality, fraternity that erupted in Paris in 1789 was more than just a slogan. It was a declaration of war against 1,000 years of tradition. When the Bastille fell, it wasn't just a prison that was stormed. It was the symbolic fortress of royal tyranny. The news spread like wildfire across Europe. For the oppressed and the enlightened, it was a beacon of hope. Philosophers and radicals saw their ideals of popular sovereignty and natural rights taking root. But for the crowned heads of Europe, it was a terrifying nightmare. If the French people could overthrow their king, what was to stop their own subjects from doing the same? This fear prompted a swift and aggressive reaction. Monarchs from Prussia to Russia saw the revolution not as an internal French matter, but as a direct threat to their own survival. They formed coalitions to crush the fledgling French Republic and restore the monarchy. What began as a domestic uprising quickly spiraled into a continental war that would rage for over 2 decades. The French, fueled by a new, fervent nationalism, didn't just defend their borders. They went on the offensive. Their armies, led by brilliant new generals like Napoleon Bonaparte, weren't just fighting for territory. They were on a mission, exporting the revolution. Wherever the French armies marched, they brought with them radical new ideas. They dismantled feudal systems, abolished aristocratic privileges, and introduced the Napoleonic Code, a revolutionary legal framework that established principles like equality before the law and property rights. In places like Italy and Germany, which were then collections of small states, the arrival of the French swept away ancient, convoluted structures, paving the way for future unification. The concept of a nation, defined not by loyalty to a king, but by a shared language, culture, and identity, began to take hold. People started seeing themselves as citizens, not subjects. But this transformation was brutal and bloody. The revolution unleashed the reign of terror, a period of extreme violence where thousands were executed. The subsequent Napoleonic Wars engulfed the entire continent, causing millions of deaths and widespread devastation. The initial ideals of liberty were often contradicted by the reality of French occupation and imperial ambition under Napoleon. The very nationalism France had awakened in other peoples eventually turned against them. As Spaniards, Germans, and Russians rose up to expel the French invaders. The revolution was a paradox, a force for liberation that also became a new form of conquest. It tore down old tyrannies only to sometimes replace them with new ones. The sheer scale of this upheaval forced European leaders to confront a changed world. The ideas unleashed by the revolution, popular sovereignty, human rights, and national identity, could not be simply erased. Even after Napoleon's final defeat and the attempt to turn back the clock at the Congress of Vienna, these seeds had been planted deep in the European consciousness. The old order was irrevocably broken. The 19th century would become a battleground for these new ideas, sparking waves of revolutions and reforms across the continent. The quest to balance the promise of liberty with the need for stability would define the future of Europe. So, how did the monarchs of Europe try to put the genie back in the bottle? And how did the revolutionary spirit continue to smolder, waiting for the right moment to erupt again? Imagine it's 1814. For over 20 years, Europe has been a battlefield. Revolution, war, and chaos have torn the continent apart. Cities are in ruins, millions are dead, and old empires have crumbled to dust. The world, as it was known, is gone forever. But the kings and emperors of Europe are not ready to give up. They gather in Vienna, the glittering capital of the Habsburgs, for a grand summit. Behind the lavish balls and candlelit banquets, their mission is deadly serious: to turn back the clock and restore order to a continent shaken to its very core. This meeting becomes known as the Congress of Vienna, a gathering of the great powers Russia, Austria, Prussia, Britain, and even defeated France. Their goal is simple: to put out the wildfire of revolution that started in France. They believe the only way to prevent more chaos is to rebuild the old monarchies, redraw borders, and crush the dangerous ideas of liberty and equality. But it's too late. The ideas of 1789, rights, citizenship, national identity have already taken root. They are spreading through classrooms, coffee houses, and the stories of soldiers who marched for Napoleon. You can't just erase an idea with a royal decree. Still, the monarchs try. They put the Bourbon dynasty back on the throne in France. They enforce conservative rule across Germany and Italy. They censor newspapers and use secret police to hunt down revolutionaries. But the people have changed. All across Europe, a dangerous question is being asked. If we fought and bled for our nations, why should we return to being powerless subjects? In Germany, students dream of a unified country. In Italy, secret societies known as the Carbonari whisper of independence. The monarchs see this as a disease and form the Holy Alliance to crush any uprising. And the uprisings come. In 1820, revolts erupt in Spain and Naples. In 1830, the streets of Paris explode in revolution once again, inspiring rebellions in Belgium and Poland. The old order is cracking. Then, in 1848, the dam finally breaks. All across the continent, Paris, Vienna, Berlin, Budapest revolutions ignite. Crowds demand constitutions, voting rights, and an end to aristocratic privilege. For a moment, it looks like the dream of 1789 is finally coming true for all of Europe. But the revolutions are disorganized. The monarchies, though shaken, fight back with their armies. The rebellions are brutally suppressed, and many reforms are undone. Yet, even in failure, something fundamental has shifted out. The spirit of nationalism, once a revolutionary dream, is now a powerful force. Statesmen like Bismarck in Germany and Cavour in Italy use it to unite their countries, not through liberal revolution, but through clever politics and war. Britain slowly expands voting rights to avoid its own revolution. Even autocratic Russia is forced to abolish serfdom. By the end of the 19th century, Europe is transformed. Monarchs still wear their crowns, but their power is no longer absolute. Parliaments are common, constitutions are written, and the idea of the nation has become the most powerful political force in the world. The DNA of the French Revolution is everywhere. But there's a darker side to this legacy. The nationalism that freed people also created intense competition and rivalries between the new nation-states. The same fire that forged Germany and Italy would eventually ignite the First World War. They send out ripples that echo for generations, reshaping everything they touch. The monarchs at the Congress of Vienna try to put the genie of revolution back in the bottle. But a revolution is not a king or an army. Monarchs of Europe left the Congress of Vienna in 1815. They believed they had contained the revolution. They thought they had stitched the old world back together. They were wrong. The French Revolution had done more than just topple a monarchy. It had awakened something far more dangerous, a new political imagination. And once people begin imagining a different world, the old one becomes impossible to maintain. The years after 1815 look calm on the surface. Royal families are restored, borders redrawn, armies demobilized. But underneath this calm, the continent is simmering. Factories rise, cities grow, and new social classes appear almost overnight. Workers flood into urban centers, facing long hours and low wages, while peasants still struggle under heavy rents. The monarchs talk about order and stability, but for the people, the post-Napoleonic world feels like a locked room, and the air is getting thinner every year. Whispers spread in cafes and taverns. Cheap, radical newspapers circulate dangerous ideas. Secret societies form in Italy, Germany, and Poland. And everywhere, one question echoes. Why should we be subjects when we could be citizens? It begins, once again, in France. In 1830, the French king restricts press freedom. The response is immediate. Angry crowds flood the streets of Paris, barricades rise, and by the end of the week, the monarchy collapses. The news races across Europe like lightning. Belgium revolts against Dutch rule and wins its independence. Uprisings for national unity break out in Italy. In Poland, resistance rises against Russian domination. Most of these revolts are crushed, but something has changed. The monarchs can still defeat rebels with force, but they can no longer erase the reason the rebellions happened. And then, in 1848, everything explodes. It starts in Paris, just like before. The French people revolt again, overthrowing their king. But this time, the shockwave doesn't stop at the border. Within months, revolutions erupt across the entire continent. Vienna, Budapest, Berlin, Prague, Milan, rights, representation, national identity. National identity, bred. 1848 becomes known as the year of revolutions, the greatest wave of political upheaval Europe has ever seen. And yet, almost as quickly as they rise, they fall. Kings flee their capitals, but return months later with armies. Radical groups fracture internally, disagreeing on their goals. By 1849, nearly every revolution has been crushed, but the defeat is only temporary. After 1848, Europe's rulers are forced to confront a truth they hoped was buried. The old order cannot survive unchanged. Slowly, often reluctantly, reforms begin. Censorship eases, parliaments gain power, and constitutions appear. Not because monarchs want these changes, but because they realize refusing them is far more dangerous. Meanwhile, nationalism grows stronger, especially among the divided German and Italian peoples, who now see unity as the path to strength. In the 1860s, Europe undergoes another transformation, this time through unification. Italy becomes a single nation for the first time in over 1,000 years. Germany unifies under Prussian leadership, forming a new empire that will alter the balance of power forever. These new nations are strong, ambitious, and deeply influenced by the ideas born from the revolution. The people, not a king, define the nation. But with unity comes rivalry. Germany and Italy want their place among the great powers. Austria fights to keep its multi-ethnic empire intact. Europe is no longer a quiet collection of royal courts. It is a continent of competing nations, each fueled by pride, industrial might, and nationalist ambition. The Congress of Vienna had tried to freeze Europe in time. Instead, the ice has shattered. By the late 19th century, Europe looks powerful and wealthy. But beneath that power lies tension. Nations expand their militaries, form secret alliances, and compete for colonies. They build railways, dreadnoughts, and standing armies ready for war at a moment's notice. The monarchs of 1815 feared revolutionary ideas. But what truly threatens Europe now is the weaponized version of nationalism. Nationalism no longer about liberation, but domination. By the early 20th century, two forces, national pride and military power, are marching in lockstep toward disaster. Europe is a powder keg, and it only needs a spark. The French Revolution didn't just rewrite France's destiny. It rewrote the trajectory of the entire modern world. Its ideas sparked movements, toppled dynasties, and challenged empires. The monarchs attempted to rewind history, but history refused. Because once people learn they can demand a voice, they never forget it. The century that followed was tumultuous, uncertain, and often violent. But it was also the century where the foundations of our modern world democracy, nationalism, rights, citizenship were built. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey through history fascinating, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more stories that shaped our world.